It was interesting yesterday, Mike, seeing you guys in the other room listening to the Mario Cristobal press conference. And it was funny to me to watch it, like the ceremony in it, the welcoming in of a coach, the welcome home of a conquering hero. To see Miami playing this game, it sort of hearkened to another time when the country was paying attention to the hires Miami was making, because there was a throne and a kingdom. And so Miami has bought its way into the big money game and trying to get into the prestige of tapping into what the program once was through its new coach. But many people are all of a sudden, and this is weird to me given how mercenary this entire industry has been, have been really caring extra for the feelings of Manny Diaz, feeling bad for the wronged employee, for the classy laborer who loves the school, but there has to be an ending. And if there's going to be an ending, it's probably going to be unkind. And there are a lot of better ways to do it than the way Miami did it. Miami did it in the most Miami way possible. Maximum Miami, not checking in with Oregon to see, hey, is it okay to get into this game? Can we talk to Mario Cristobal? Mike, you've reported that the only way to get Mario Cristobal is to do this way because it was Mario's wishes. He did not want to look like he was angling for another man's job, even as he was.
Yeah, even as he was, because through back channeling, I told you for weeks. We don't need to revisit it, but I told you for weeks this was always the goal of Miami's. Mario is a control freak to a large degree, as we saw there in that press conference yesterday. A lot of Nick Saban influence, and this was a unique situation because Miami didn't have an athletic director to say, that's not a very good idea. We got to button up things with our head coach. I told you Miami's reasoning with Manny Diaz. They maintain that they failed him. They know it. They liked him. They rated him highly. They felt like he could still be an effective head coach. Excuse me. Pick up. They felt like he could be an effective head coach if he were armed with the resources they were prepared to give Mario Cristobal. I think that's covered to a degree, though. I find it hard to believe that if they somehow struck out on Mario Cristobal, that they were just going to turn around and bring back Manny Diaz, because that would be the single worst PR move that school has ever had at that point. But that's what they maintain, and I think that they have to. Miami didn't have an athletic director, and I think that showed its face with how unconventional this was. I'm in agreement with the national media. They shouldn't have done that with Manny Diaz, but it's what Mario kind of wanted because he didn't want to angle for another man's job publicly, and there were a lot of benefits to having Manny Diaz in place. He kept players from leaving to the portal. He kept recruiting on the road. To his credit, he was doing his job as hard as he could to the very end. That benefits Mario Cristobal, and it prioritizes a more fear-based operation like Miami had been, which is we can't lose anybody. They really put a premium on that. I think an AD, if they had one, should have stepped in and said, look, we're going to give you whatever you need, Mario, but we got to handle Manny appropriately, because I do think that there's merit to what people say.
Right, and that's the thing that is so obvious along the way is they should have just fired him. Like, it was easy to just fire him and move on and recognize that it didn't work. And if it's not Mario Cristobal, there are plenty of other college head coaches at the financial level that we're talking about that are available. I just don't understand why the subsequent media reaction has been clutching pearls. This business is dirty, man. Like, we
do this all the time with coaches. Like, anytime a big coach moves every year, people do this kind of complaining about this.
Right,
it just keeps happening.
Lincoln Riley leaving in the middle of the night did Oklahoma dirty. Manny Diaz leaving Temple, 12 hours taking the job, did, like, in order to switch jobs in the college football cycle, you have to leave the job that you're in. And that's not an easy process. There's a lot of hurt feelings along the way. I don't understand why all of a sudden when Miami does it, it's time to clutch pearls.
Well, here's the other part of it, too. Apparently, because they back-channeled the whole dirty business to get the guy they wanted. Everyone's working in the shadows in the back channels. Oregon's leadership is like, how could you not check with us? So they end up getting legitimately blindsided somehow, even though we're sitting here talking about it on a pretty popular podcast. Their entire administration gets blindsided.
Oregon did approach Mario Cristobal fairly arrogantly, and I never got it. You're talking about a guy that knows exactly what Miami's capable of. You're talking about a world-class city. You're talking about a hometown, and it's not like you didn't just lose Willie Taggart. Historically, anytime Big Sharks come swimming around, sitting head coaches at Oregon, they tend to leave. But Oregon, there's such a recency bias with like wins and losses. It was, why would Mario leave? They couldn't fathom. We saw this to a smaller degree with Notre Dame and LSU. It's like, why would he do that?
Is it because, though, that they assumed, like all of us had, that before a month ago, Miami doesn't do the big money stuff?
Yeah, I guess. And the arrogance was really like, just why would he go there? They don't have facilities, which is BS to a degree because they do. Oregon doesn't have the indoor practice facility. Miami does. It was a lot of uninformed stuff, and people are just doing wins and losses. And unfortunately, like, for me, watching the national media, someone that's kind of siding with them on Manny, the one thing that I find weird, and Herb Street actually did this too, as well as everybody else, they played hard at the end of the season. Gosh, they didn't quit.
After you thought they were going to quit because you were at practice this was your first foray into being an insider. You reported on practice scrimmages that you interpreted as being quitting.
They were fighting it. They were fighting at practice, and Manny told his team, like, these are the birthing pains. And the week leading up to UNC, which was a must-win after a bye, where Manny Diaz never performed well, after a bye, he had to have it against a subpar UNC team. He lost that game, but it finished kind of close, and Miami played all these squeakers. They won some, they lost some, but the standard for the University of Miami that Kirk Herbstreit was pounding the table for in the second half of the season was just don't quit. It was a very mixed message, and I understand there's a person and there's families here, but you can't. I mean, he did, but it doesn't make much sense to me when Herbie is all about the pride of that U and what that means and the standard that it should live up to, and then you're saying Manny Diaz should stay just because players didn't quit. That's not the standard here. He lost to FSU. Every single person that talks about how the team performed the second half of the season omits the losses, omits the clear gaps in coaching, omits that the program was not heading in the right direction despite playing hard and not quitting. Despite living up to your very low standard, recruiting was going in the other direction. This was not a program that was turning it around under current leadership. It flatly wasn't. He deserved to be fired. He deserved to be. 7 wins, 7-5 in year 3 at the U when you inherited the job because you were part of the previous regime. You deserve to be fired. I will concede, though, didn't deserve to be fired in that fashion.
Okay, and this is where I'd stop you for a second because that is the most human thing to say. I think any of us could understand, if he's being classy, don't drape him in shame. Don't, like, that'll get into anybody's emotions if you've ever been wronged at work or anything else. Hey, he was a good soldier. Shouldn't it be cleaner than that? But I'm with Whittingham on the idea of, really? You're still pearl clutching and watching what's happening in that sport right now with greasy money exchanges? Like, we're still gonna, how much more of shamateurism do I need to remove from the veneer for you guys to realize these are all agents brokering power, trying to get near the money, and they'll trample the bodies of kids, and they'll trample protocols, and they'll trample all manner of ethics because there's a big pot of SEC money out there and a giant business, and Miami just handed part of that business over to one of its newest savior CEO by winning a little bit in what has now become the dirtiest business. Of course, you're not going to ask for permission if you want Manny's job. Of course, you're going to try and back channel. You're going to get offended in a press conference, and you're going to play. This has been in the works for how long, Mike? I'm guessing that Cristobal but for Mario Cristobal in his heart, though. Like,
Mario Cristobal was watching the University of Miami. Mario Cristobal loves the University of Miami. At the press conference, he was talking to his kids, and it kind of alluded to the fact that this was always the dream job. I know Mario Cristobal wanted this job for years. This was his destination. How could it not be? But he wasn't going to come here if it wasn't right, because for all Mario Cristobal loved the program, he knew what ailed it. He knew the mentality that existed there, and he needed it to change. And it did, to bring him aboard. And back to Manny Diaz real quick, like, I don't doubt for a second he would have rather it go a different way. But he has chosen his public relations spin on this, and it's a smart one. Because now when people say Manny Diaz, it's, aw, pobrecito. And I guarantee you, Manny Diaz has a much more positive opinion of him right now than he would have if it played out another way. And if you like Manny Diaz so much, you can go ahead and hire him. Like there's plenty of DC openings inside the ACC. Clemson. Heck, maybe Mac Brown will bring you back, even though he fired you.
Stugotz wants Phil Knight to hire him. Stugotz wants Phil Knight to hire him on the cheap as the head coach of the team.
Oregon's always kind of operated as Miami used to. They knew they had the resources in place, so they knew they could make any coach. That's good when you have the resources in place. I would have opted for something like that if I knew Miami had their shit buttoned up. But prior to this change in culture, that was spearheaded by the possibility of having someone like Mario Cristobal, because that's what engaged graduates of Columbus High School that were very powerful.
Got the attention of the president.
Lamonis, Moss.
Yeah, money. The Cuban money.
The money, yes.
The Cuban money from Miami that wants this
John
program.
Ruiz, who has family ties.
But Mike, let's go back across the generations for a second, just what this program means to you and a whole bunch of people in this region who didn't even go to the school, but Miami represents a thing to them. You realize that the money around this remembers that time. The money around this knows what it was like when Miami had the swaggering football program that represented us to the world. Like that's...
And they want that time back. Right?
And now, but no, they lived that time as young people, and now they've gotten to money.
Right.
And now to me, what I've been watching on this is, oh, look at this. The Cubans just got in the dirty game.
Well, I think that they kind of realized that they could do something about it because they were getting frustrated. We should have had Mario. Wait, I know Mario. Let's go out and get Mario. And then the school's like, okay,
but Mario's their high school buddy. Like Mario's the guy. Mario was the little kid at the barbecues around La Cajachina. He was running around with his big brother Luis, and now this is the kind of money that's bringing him in. This is the power shift at Miami now. Now Cubans are running the place.
I mean, very clearly. What more?
Wait a minute. What was that?
Jose Masa.
What was that? What was that from? What was that from the corner there?
Damn right. Cubans are running the show. Dano.
La Chumeria en la esquina. Okay, tell me your thoughts on this. I've been wanting to check out this corner of the studio for a while here, off microphone. Please tell me, Chusmeria en la esquina. What do you think of this hire here?
Dan, it's about bringing people home, right? Every kid that grows up always wants to be a part of the University of Miami. And I think the more important thing is, like, you've been with the program as it's in the complete height of the mountaintop. You've won national championships here. You've been to the Orange Bowl. You've done a Cajachina around a UM game of sorts. And all of a sudden, now you're here. Now all of a sudden, you can go to La Ventanita and people know, hey, this is my guy. It's me. That's me right there, right?
He is in the oversized suit. He is.
Hermano Recate, Dan. Brothers to the rescue. That's what happened here.
Wow.
This doesn't hit you in the same place, does it, Chris Cody? You're not feeling it. You're Anglo.
Like the energy that it brings. It seems to have, the city is alive again, it feels like. But I feel like we were alive for Mark Richt, and also we were alive for Al Golden.
Now it's Latin flavor, though.
That's true.
Now
we just had Manny Diaz, and we were alive when he was doing the tackling dummies. I just
remember the wrestling stuff he did the first couple weeks.
Just didn't know the depths of how hard it was for a coach that wasn't super ready for the role. You had to have a very good coach. I think Mark Richt rose above it at times because Mark Richt was a very good coach. But I really wasn't aware of the depths of the culture problem.
But Mike, no, but hold on. Let's speak of this spiritually, okay? Because one of the frustrations I have had in our new enterprise is a lot of our audience is new. We got so much new audience, but some of the audience goes back with us, Stugotz, to the very beginnings of when this local hour was just the birth of this show. And it's something spiritually special to me, our local hour, what we do with it. And I know many of you listening right now, well, you might not even be listening because you skipped past it because you were like, oh, really? Another Miami? Really? We're going to do another Miami segment. But we are, first and foremost, and I don't say it to throw it in your face, we're a Miami show. And the reason I want to hear from Mike on this subject and everything that he feels is because across the generations, this program raised Miami on sports. Whittingham, Chris Cody, his father profited off it. Roy, we have all been at this teat in Miami for a long time, funding everything we do around here. And this is a big story that the University of Miami, I want to be able to cover this team for the next 10 years from the inside. Mike Ryan has climbed to a position in power in this sports landscape where he picked up the phone and what came to him was power and information that informed this audience better than reporters who have been doing it for decades, Stugotz. He got on the inside of this story and there was not a surprise. Like look, I don't know how you guys care about reporting or anything, but the idea that this particular shit burger circus would birth something that was factually accurate in a time that it's hard to get factually accurate when there's, a lot of bullshit all around.
Are you saying that we did this? Like someone in our group was able to pull this off and nailed every single aspect of it?
Ooh,
you did.
I'm venturing to say, yeah, someone on our team did. Were you just not listening to the last few weeks?
Well, no. Dan was just saying that, and Mike, we're super proud of you.
No, I appreciate it.
I've seen you do the work right in front of my face, right? Like you're leaving the studio, you're making calls. You nailed everything. You informed us. You informed the audience. I don't care if they care or not, but you informed us, and you were right on every single thing, and you deserve credit, man. We're happy for you.
Credit that ESPN will not give you. Credit that Kirk Herbstreit will not give you.
He's going to be
getting a coaching spot.
He's going to get a parade when he gets here. I think that's what worked, man. That's what worked. And like I said, it's not the first time Kirk Herbstreit tried that very same thing on the University of Miami. Just landed this time. I'm really thankful it did. And Dr. Frank, we've called him into question plenty of times. And it was a mess. And maybe they should have gotten rid of Manny Diaz. But he got it right. At the end of it, he's standing atop the mountain with his handpicked candidate who's won a Rose Bowl recently, who's the best recruiter in the nation, arguably, and an AD that built something very special in Clemson. Very special. He got two guys at the top of their game. Well, Radakovich is a little bit older, but he is, as I told you, the AD at Clemson. He built something great.
The part, Stugotz, and this is really, honestly, I do think that if you get sucked into the wonderful narrative of young man comes home, or you see the changing tides of the economy of the sport and you see more clearly, no romance. Wow, big business. This is all dirty. People are fighting for dollars. The reason that Mike Ryan is this excited about this, because I do think people get lost in some of the minutia just arguing about, is he overrated? Is he not overrated? What can he really do? How much can he change the culture? Blah, 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 blah. Mario Cristobal could be faceless CEO X. What Miami did in hiring him was announce to the country a new dawn of, we want in the big money game we've never been in. Never been in. We got to change conferences. We got to go over here. Do we go to the ACC or the Big East because we need some of the basketball money? Just sort of trying to become dirty Notre Dame as an independent, trying to navigate all this conference stuff as a total outsider. Hey, look at this. Oh, wow. Won a title in the ACC in basketball out of nowhere? Okay.
Everything they did on that head coaching position was on the cheap. Even Mark Richt, who was in demand, other programs wanted him after he left Georgia, but he only came here because he had ties down here. You stopped poaching from Temple. You started poaching from Clemson and Oregon.
Can we not? Exactly right. Can we not skip the part, though, of a program run so much on the cheap that they went and got Mark Richt out of a discount big name bin, and he had to give money back to try and get them in the business of, do you really want to compete? Like, he had to give millions back in, like, we need to make this a little better if you guys really want to compete where I've been in the SEC. And so the announcement, the reason, as Luther Campbell and Alonzo Highsmith and Gino Torretta and Bryant McKinney and all these people in South Florida who care deeply about this program and have been screaming, all the old heads who raised Mike Ryan, all the old heads, screaming like, this is not what this program is about. And to hear for 20 years, yeah, it is. You're Virginia Tech. You're irrelevant. You sold all that past glory. to be NC State. All you were an
Think of us as Vanderbilt. End of quote.
So just so that you can have the entire 3-4 decades that this entire shipping container was raised on and was where I was really working hard on an interesting Miami at the height of like a vibrant journalism time where that was a hated team and America hated that team and Miami loved that team. And a whole city was birthed around that. Because if you look at what's happening in Florida, man, it's all Daytona Beach and then this dirty brown thing down here. Like we are all, even in Cleveland, we're like basically at a spring break hotel that you can find anywhere in Florida. And then there's this dirty brown thing that America hated through its football team, which was Michael Irvin running down a sideline at the height of, FSU Miami. The shame of all of that, a program glory, Stugotz. Like, go back to the finances of this. Miami, out of this septic tank, became, as a television entity in college sports, what Notre Dame was. Ooh, that dirty, interesting, out of nowhere Miami thing that plays all the interesting games. And holy shit, that team is terrifying. How do we hold all of that back? It's running roughshod. It's going under Dennis Erickson. Dennis Erickson is throwing up in buckets, fever blisters on his face, trying to win championships because there's so much tension that his team is so good, but so reckless that he gets 202 penalty yards in a Cotton Bowl that they beat Texas in 46-3, 2 football fields of penalty yardage. The job has reached such a height that he can't placate anybody because Miami's defending those teams and that thing, and the rest of the country is bleep you, Miami. That's out of control. Francesa's on national television, voice of college football. On that Cotton Bowl game, this is a disgrace the way Miami
Well, that
is.
Francesa was on a college football broadcast. Yeah. Even he knows jack
Great.
shit about it.
The Pope.
He rained down all sorts of judgment. And the library, back then it was President Tad Foote. The library would fight Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson had to fight for shit because he had the dirty renegade program. And at every turn it was like, hey, I built this dirty thing. It brings you a lot of attention. Yes, but can it be classier? No, it can't. Not when the black guys are in charge, not when the Cuban guys are in charge, not when the white guys are in charge. It can't be classier. This is it. It's a dirty Miami thing. Cristobal is as classy as we're going to get.
And let's fast forward to 2017, when for one fleeting moment, it kind of felt like that again. There was such a buzz in this city. In 2017, Miami was so desperate for a winner. All the pro teams were down bad. The entire city rallied around a turnover chain that, to his credit, Manny Diaz brought on and was a symbol for a very exciting defense. And you mattered. And you remembered your childhood. You remembered what it felt like 12 years ago. Mattering. Wanted it so bad. And you got to that level by kind of half-assing it, by getting a guy who had done it before, a proven commodity, who put in his own resources to get you at least close to the game. Now, if you're fully on board, if you are truly all in, if it's the whole ass, sky's the limit. I mean that.
The whole ass?
We put in our whole ass. If we are.
I don't know.
If we are putting.
You made me
Esquina.
uncomfortable.
Somehow you become more annoying.
You made me uncomfortable. You made me uncomfortable. All of a sudden,
Stop half-assing.
the rah-rah speech.
We weren't even.
No,
But Dan, by the end
Mike,
of Manny Diaz, we were quarter-assing.
Mike, I'm made uncomfortable by you just dropping your whole ass in the middle of these proceedings.
Very tricky schedule next year. I mean,
Yeah.
Texas A&M, Clemson.
Yeah, they might
We'll
lose
see.
it. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit. But
How much time we giving them?
No,
Really?
it starts
3
now.
games.
No,
You
it
guys
starts
are rebuilt,
now.
like, what you gotta be-
I hear about a good quarterback. Is this a
It
rebuild?
starts now, Mike.
Especially if you get
Mike, you
Joe
can't-
Brady. If you get Joe Brady with this quarterback, the portal's going to be active. What needs to stop next year is the national TV spotlight, and Miami has zero interest in competing. That needs to stop next year. That needs to stop at College Station. It certainly needs to stop at Death Valley next year with a down Clemson team. If you are ready to compete and be in that ACC championship game in Charlotte,
Right away.
the embarrassment needs to end. And I think it will end. I don't think they'll win at College Station. It'll be hard, even though Clemson is down to win at Death Valley. But okay, drop those 2 games. My standard for next year is they'll probably lose those 2 games. But losing at home to Florida State, no. Losing on the road to Virginia, no. Losing at home to UNC, no. And that's got to be the standard here.
That was a very serious way to
Whole
end
ass.
that. Okay,
It's my whole
that was
ass.
better. I like it better.
110%
His
of
whole
your
ass is in.
Let's get
I
back.
mean,
So your whole ass because
Ass.
you dropped. Well, it's a hairy ass, also a ass because
sure.
I imagine you're dropping a whole. When you say like it's a half an ass,
It's a hairy ass.
I'm so much more okay with it.
It's a hairy ass until we lead up to every 3rd Thursday. And it becomes a trimmed ass.
Groomed ass.
That's right.
Trimmed ass.
Grass.
Contour.
It did not put the best foot forward in saying, "Hey, we've turned a new page. We're starting a new era."
What I got was a lot of gloss. This is what I felt off that UFC press conference.
USC.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
You got it. Fine.
Draped in marching band and cheerleader. I really enjoyed the aggressive, insecure, and I believe phony, we're going to be okay. We're totally going to be okay. I'm telling you, because of all of this marching band stuff, we're okay. We're deeply, deeply okay.
If you have to continue to remind someone they're going to be okay, probably not going to be okay.
It scared me,
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask the group because I know we've got a certain myopia around here about how Miami is received. We've got the scars, we've got the persecution complex and the persecution. Does Alabama feel like what we're talking about here with Notre Dame and Miami, or has Nick Saban built it clean enough and not like holier than thou, but moral enough that you don't feel it? You might root against Alabama, but you don't feel about Alabama the way you do about Notre Dame and Miami when you hate them. Like, does the hatred for Alabama reach that level, or is it? I guess another way of asking it is excellence enough? Droning excellence enough? Does it make you hate somebody, or does there need to be something else there?
I think if one of your teams has lost to Alabama in the last decade, you probably hate them, specifically in the national championship or in the playoff. But I also think that after 2020, like, something for me changed. I used to despise Nick Saban and Alabama and all of those players. Eddie Lacy, I hate you. Now I've just given up. I am resigned to the fact that they are the best college football program in the entire universe, and I almost have to respect it. I don't respect it. I still hate them.
But you almost
But
respect
I
it.
almost
Okay.
respect it. And to me, like, that's the highest
That's
compliment
the
I can give a
begrudging.
sports
That is the
a
most
sports team.
begrudging compliment you can give. I want to hate them, but they've beaten the respect out of me.
This is also, I think, some more Miami myopia because I still hate Nick Saban with the intensity of 1,000 suns for how he left the Miami Dolphins. Like, I still look at him on television and viscerally feel rage towards it.
But you respect him, though, right?
I really agree with Jess to say, and not only in Alabama winning, but also in Tom Brady winning another Super Bowl, where it's just like, there is no point in rooting against these people. You don't get the reward of rooting against. I love rooting against. I love rooting against.
Dan's been
But you don't
trying
get
for
any
years
rewards
with
for it.
Brady.
You don't get any rewards for it. It's exhausting. Like, why am I going to dedicate my energy? I just, like, at this point, do like the soccer clap towards the crowd. Be like, yeah, fair play.
They were better.
No, that is exactly right, Whittingham. In 2020, Tom Brady won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, and Alabama won the COVID national championship in a season where, like, college football, more than I think any other sport, had so much disruption. There were so many people sick. There were so many, like, the players didn't even get paid, and they were playing during a pandemic. Games were postponed. The Pac-12 played like 10 games total, like all of them. And Alabama still somehow, in a pandemic where anything can happen, there's so much upheaval, they won the freaking national championship.
by 4
it's
touchdowns.
exhausting.
And to catch up to them now, USC is aggressively peppy, and Brian Kelly has to do it. And everyone will do it less well. Everyone, now you may have success, but everyone, that's the standard in every way across the board on how you do it. It's not just the winning, Stugotz.
Right.
Because I think that's happened to a lot of people. I don't know that people felt that way with Notre Dame and Miami when they were winning. I can't speak to Notre Dame in the 40s, but I don't know if there was ever with the
60s,
Miami,
80s, but yes.
because they were so jagged, whether Miami ever got, you know what, you guys are great. Never mind golf clap or
I
or
guess like
soccer clap.
Miami never going back to back. I mean, they did win 4 in 8 years, but never going back to back. Like they always gave you they gave you the satisfaction.
It was 5.
That hurts, Mike.
Yeah.
Number 6 would have been back to back.
0102 should have been back to back. But like they gave you the satisfaction of some L's every now and again. Alabama has just won so much with the same guy for so long that like even the L to Texas A&M was like they'll be in the playoff anyway. And they are.
It really is amazing, Dan. Their standard of excellence, just how consistently great they've been. Even Clemson's had a tough year this year. Like, Alabama never has the year that Clemson had this year.
I'm surprised Whittingham still holds the rage for Saban across 15 years.
He's also a fairly loathsome character. It's not like he can charm you with his charisma. He's still the guy, the cantankerous guy at a press conference who seems like a burden to deal with. He seems like the worst person in the world to work for.
But
I would never want to work for Nick Saban.
He's becoming more likable as he gets older, right? Like as he gets more content, he is. Like you see personality in the post-game press conference.
He's putting on the goofy leather-bound hat.
Yeah, he's doing the commercials with Dion. I mean, that Dion has helped him more than anything.
He's
Yeah.
70. I'm resigned to the fact that perhaps if anyone can topple them, it's Georgia. Not to do that again, but Georgia has the talent to compete with them this year, and we'll see. They'll probably match up again. But I don't think that their dynasty is going to end because someone else is going to end it. I think it's going to end because Nick Saban turns 80.
7 years after Nick Saban has died, somebody will win a couple of championships after him, either Bob Stoops or Barry Alvarez. Maybe
Barry Alvarez would be quite something.
Alvarez.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be anybody that's still Barry Switzer might be still kicking around.
But the thing about both Saban and Brady is that not only is their place in the current period no longer in question, their place in all-time history is now so far out of doubt that it's like, all right, this is the best we've ever seen. No one can ever come close. In some ways, like Michael Jordan left enough out there. 6 titles in like over 20 years, like it's achievable. What Saban and what Brady have done would appear to be unachievable.
It seems insurmountable.
Barry Switzer is 84 years
That's right.
old.
That's right.
He can still coach a triple option.
You have him still hanging around.
That's right. In his hundreds. I saw Norman Lear
Winning 2 national championships.
I saw Norman Lear last night on primetime television, network television. He's 99 years old. He had a ponytail and he got censored for using the word bleep. Yes, some people will live forever.
I stand corrected. I'm sorry. Switzer will win 2 national championships at the age of 100.
And that's right. He got censored for saying the word bleep. I just bleeped myself bleeping.
I just turned to Mike and I said, which bleep did he say?
No, he said the F word. Norman Lear let it fly. At 99 years old, you're 99. Like
If you
who
can't say
cares?
the F word on primetime television at 99, then when can you?
That's true.
Great question.
Put that on the poll at LeBatard Show. Yes or no? I wanted to ask you what happened to you, though, Mike, yesterday, because there were a couple of things that I wanted to do. The press conference yesterday was on with Mario Cristobal while we were on, and I have my regret about not creating a gambling game about things that he was about to say in that press conference like we did with Brian Kelly. But Mike was feeling too sacred about the moment. And I got to be honest, I've been watching...
And also feeling like we've done so much Mario Cristobal that if it bled into the national show, they'd bring out the pitchforks.
You know what, though? Okay. Look, audience, I am sorry that we talk about some of the things here locally that we like so much in something called the local hour in a way that you find disagreeable. And I actually get it. It's very flattering that you would do that you wouldn't want us to stick to one subject for very long.
I don't get it. I don't care. We are talking about this story because someone on our staff was firmly entrenched in the middle of that story and did a great job with it.
And it's a story that
It is a
matters
national
to
story.
Miami,
Yes.
and it's Miami getting in the game. And, we rarely get those around here. The Miami story
About Mike for me.
that resonates nationally
It's about
for us.
Cafecito for me. Mario
And
Cristobal drinks it.
And so this one has been fun to hyperanalyze, but it's a bit of a cult. Like this has been this way for 30 years. Whittingham, I don't know because you've grown up around it. Maybe it's not as strange to you, but the feeling of what they do to introduce the new coach, around the Heck Center in a place, bringing out the old legends and stuff. It feels like the Masons. It feels like something, a secret society. It feels like something from a different time.
Miami's a lot less weird about it. We're not doing Woo Pig Suey.
I know it. Yes,
That was the weirdest.
but it's
by
The
far.
Petrino one is
Yes.
the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
but it still feels like
I'm
HBO.
still haunted by it.
HBO documentary about a cult. When Don Bailey comes out and starts like a rah-rah across the decades from the past. Hey, my father's on a billboard and he's nude on a carpet. I invented this city. I am here to introduce the next coach because I am Miami football at my core. Me and Zagacki. We got it in our bones. We've been doing this across the decades. I'm here as a golden member of this cult to introduce one of our former linemen. I used to be a lineman. I'm a lineman. He's a lineman. He's a Cuban lineman.
Couple of linemen cutting it up.
Am I wrong about this? It feels culty the way that they do this.
I actually will go the other way because the feeling about the Miami program is that they don't connect with their history enough. That there's always been a feeling like, get those guys out of here. Mike and I were discussing a column from Andrea Adelson before the show, and there was a feeling that Miami has outsized expectations based off of who they are as a program, and that those outsized expectations are part of the problem. But those outsized expectations come from the people in that room. And if you're going to signal a sea change that, hey, we're going to connect to this history with the resources of the modern era and try and recreate it, in some ways it is symbolic to have them there. And I think it's good that Mario Cristobal wants to connect because those are only good things. Like the only figures from UM football that have connected with the modern generation are those guys through Billy Corbin's documentaries.
But rest assured, Winningham, when I say this, that I am very much entrenched as being a member of this cult. Like this program, it birthed what it is that I do, how I do it, why I enjoy doing it.
Yeah,
this
but
way.
we're cool. We're not like those weirdos at Texas A&M, Dan.
The second thing I wanted to do that I didn't do yesterday, though, and you mentioned the column just now, because Mike, I don't know what happened. As I was leaving here, that columnist was on television skewering Miami. And
about Manny Diaz.
Yes, skewering Miami. And Mike Ryan was sort of taking it, watching it and taking it and being like, yeah, we didn't handle that great. Like, yeah, that's a whole messy thing. That's probably not the most human way to treat Manny Diaz. And I was saying, hey, Mike, let's have her on. I'd like to hear this opinion. This is not an opinion that I'm hearing a lot of, but Mike's traveling in the circles where he is hearing a lot of this opinion. The old media mad at Miami stuff.
I mean, he wasn't treated well. Like, whether or not it's being done at other universities, the man wasn't treated well. I'm surprised the two of you seem to be okay with it because you're fundamentally decent people.
No,
Both of you. I've known you for a long time
I'm
now.
not okay with it. I said they should have fired him. They should have fired him. But that, in order to get to this point where yesterday you're introducing Mario Cristobal without an athletic director in place, they maintained it had to play out that way. And maybe it's because they're saying it because they have to, because this is the way that it played out. But people swore up and down to me that if Mario Cristobal somehow fell through, it was unlikely, but if it somehow fell through, Manny Diaz was going to be given a chance with these resources. It's a shitty position. I've been in that position. Dan, you've been in that position. Stugotz, you've been in that position where the place you're at is actively pursuing to replace you. It sucks. No one cried for me. Like it's just a matter of business. And at the highest levels of big-time college football, that's the reality.
Well, this is the thing that I agree with Stugotz on, though. And I've been negligent in doing this because I probably should say on the front end, yeah, that's not a human way to treat somebody who has treated your program classily and has represented your school well in every way except for winning enough for you. And you made him eat it at the end in a way that took away some dignity from him as an employee. And anyone can reach across the aisle there and say, man, I wouldn't want to be shamed by my boss that way. So that is wrong. I just go the next step by the program that raised me. The program that raised me. And am like, oh, bleep off to all you. This is all dirty. It gets near the library and it's contaminated. Yeah, it gets arrested sometimes. Yeah, Howard Schnellenberger might be lowering the academic standards. Yeah, look at black versus white and Latin rooting it on in Miami as the country hates it because it's great and swaggering. You had to change the goddamn rules to keep your sport looking pure and feeling pure. You had to put in the rules because our black guys were dancing too much after trampling your city, your beloved heritage, your history. Yeah, that program that raised this show, Mike Ryan cares about it from the roots of that. And that's why we talk about it so much and annoy you with it. But I am looking at it from the prism, Stugotz, of, good God, this is a dirty business. Like, it's really dirty.
It's been dirty for a while
I know, but
now,
I'm saying you're already not paying the labor and making. Go ahead and listen to the South Beach sessions today with John Skipper and David Sampson about them talking about the dollars that are involved now. Skipper having been at the forefront of producing those dollars so that you understand how much the kids have been getting wronged for a long time. That program made that school. Made it. Not medicine. Not healthcare.
Yeah. In fact, UHealth sold the football logo because the football logo put the university on the map.
Be clear on that. The library was always embarrassed by that team. The scholastic educator, Tad Foote, embarrassed. And that team, swaggering and breaking all the rules, that team brought this city to the world. And, yeah, we carried around. And that's what Mike Ryan, that's what made him pick up his phone and decide to be an insider 6 weeks ago, because he's like, let me see if I can change something here, because I care about the program that way. It raised me. Am I wrong, Mike? But that's what that is what LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh made us feel again. We'd already felt it. This program had already done it.
Yeah, and every fan base, I think Patriots fans feel this too. They feel like the media hates them. But for whatever reason, whenever Miami gets good at something, the national attention, it's just negative. Miami can't play by the same big-time college football rules anymore. Now we have a problem with how we're treating people. Now we care about how people feel and their families. It's just Miami's never allowed to play by the same rules. Nevin Shapiro, like that isn't going on everywhere else. But when it's Miami, you have Sports Illustrated again calling for the program to be totally contracted. It's just you always approach things from a defensive point of view as a Miami fan, and I will admit to you, the audience, probably way too defensive.
You don't need to admit it. It's obvious. It's soaked. It's part of why they don't like your commentary on this stuff.
But Mike, you've got the resume. Why do you have to be defensive?
There is stuff in the past that fortified it. There just is.
I'm usually a defensive football fan. This has been great for me. Just amazing
Is my tone
content.
good though? Is my tone good?
It's a little defensive.
Yeah, but I feel like a soft.
But this is the part that I wanted to ask you about, because we didn't do it. Walk me through this as the producer of the show, Mike, because I believe about this team. I see what I believe to be some rare blind spots from you, because you're part of this cult. You're part of this cult around.
Well, what are my blind spots? I feel like I'm calling them out. Like, I know I have blind spots, but is it a blind spot if you're readily admitting it?
Well, this is what I would say to you. You tell me, because I believe it got in the way of the content yesterday. I thought that whatever it is that was being said on that television by the columnist, forgive me, what is her name?
Andrea Adelson.
I read parts of the column and I saw what she was saying on television. I thought that was landing on you as lashes. Lashes. You're watching. You're staring the television after you've watched the press conference. You're filled with hope. You're feeling buoyant because you were at the middle of that story, and now you enjoyed a day yesterday. And this woman was really, really torching UM about lacking class in the way it had done this. And I thought Mike should talk to her. Mike said he did not want to talk to her and said she's largely right. We handled this wrong. And then I tuned into Twitter later that night, and he's arguing with her on Twitter.
I didn't know she would write that article.
Oh no!
He's giving. I'm like, you're giving it away. I texted him, Mike, you're giving him away. You're giving it away. Like, if you were gonna fight with her, why didn't you fight with her here?
Number one, it's a very losing position for me, because I think the nation would agree with her. I agreed with the sentiment that she was making yesterday on the ACC network that was just strictly focused on Manny Diaz. Her article, I thought, wasn't my favorite. It echoed a lot of loser sentiments from Blake James. And honestly, while I read it, I'm like, I think Blake is a source on this, because she was blaming fans for high expectations. Who blames Texas fans for high expectations? Who blames Alabama fans for high expectations? This program has 5 national championships, 1 in this century. Are you going to blame FSU fans for high expectations? Because their national title seems even further removed than ours. Why blame the fans for a private institution that just went to a microphone and said, yeah, it was our bad. Our bad. We had good people here. We didn't support them. It's a resource problem. For you to turn around and blame me when I'm the only goddamn thing that was working right about it?
This is what I wanted for content yesterday.
You felt like she was attacking you?
She absolutely was
Yes.
attacking fans.
No, she was attacking unreasonable Kane's expectations. That basically it's
an honor.
get in your corner and understand who you are. And I think we have every right as fans to be like, no,
That's always been the
no,
attitude.
I don't want for this to be the case. Like, we can be better than this. We don't have to settle for it. If the administration just put forward some money, we don't have to be like this. And you know what? Yes, I'm not going to show up for a 6-6 team. Why should I? Why, as a fan, are you expected to support shit? Why is it an expectation?
Jessica, what do
You guys don't sound defensive at all.
Game, guys.
This is what it feels
You guys are
it's
like you
crying
don't
about a
belong here.
national column on ESPN that someone wrote about the
Yes,
fans, about
somebody
this, about
wrote a
that.
thing, and I can get mad about the thing that was written.
Welcome
You
back
is
into the
back. Yes.
You should feel
what you
alive
said.
Why do we have to
today.
accept 8 and 4? Why do we have to accept 8 and 4? Why?
Well,
Tell me
Whitney-
why I have to accept 8 and 4 as a fan. When this team has the 15th best talent in the country, when they're not even trying.
Yeah.
They're not even trying, and they've got good talent.
And why should Notre Dame have to join a conference? You guys don't know what the national scheduling likes at Notre Dame.
Because
they
get
wanna
over
play in
yourself.
every
That's
state.
why.
It would have helped you out.
I was on your side. What? You're doing
I mean,
your
Notre
thing.
Dame.
You
Conference
played a game
championship.
last weekend. Perhaps
you
you're
guys-
in. I mean,
last year you saw the benefits of losing in the conference championship game. You guys still would have been in if your one loss wasn't to Cincinnati, though. The college football playoff.
They
I saw
couldn't
Kirk
do it.
Herbstreit's bullshit victory
No,
lap yesterday. What, you think we're all against you? It was the one scenario where
That's
every
it.
conference champion
Yeah.
had 2 losses pretty much. And they were just put into this one specific unique spot that may never happen again, where the group of 5 actually went to the Power 5 and beat it. I know it's an independent, not really a
Mike,
Power
they were an inch away from Oklahoma State being in the playoff. I mean,
For sure.
yes.
They'd look for any excuse to not put Cincinnati in there. And their last resort was, all right, we all think Notre Dame should be in over Cincinnati at this point. It's the best of the
I thought it
available
was
option.
great. I really did think was funny, Stugotz, that for all the for all the stupidity that I think the weekly conversation around this made-for-TV spectacle, and again, I urge you to listen to David Sampson and John Skipper on South Beach Sessions, because they sort of explain to you how all of this is a rigged, made-for-television game. And this weekly arguing about all the things, they did get it right. The system did end up getting it right, but only because every goddamn thing that had to happen, including you simply can't, no matter what your mathematics are, you simply can't take Cincinnati out when it's unbeaten and put Notre Dame in with 1 loss when Cincinnati went to Notre Dame and won and is unbeaten. And yet all of us listening to this would say, you know what? Notre Dame probably should be in that playoff a little bit more, because we have all the doubts about the Cincinnatis that we've had since UCF and everything else. I believe the people listening to this would rather have Notre Dame, but everything that needed to happen in that college football playoff made all the conversation before it totally empty, because they got the right 4 teams.
It's crazy since year 1 of the playoff, when they had the TCU Baylor situation where the Big 12 didn't want to name a conference champion. And so they said, here are 2 teams, and ended up putting neither of them in the playoff, that every year the playoff works out for them. They don't have to make tough decisions. They don't have to piss people off. It's easy for them every year. And it's because for whatever reason, all this shit just works out.
And soon it'll be 12 teams, and it'll all keep working out. And now Miami's in the game for the 12 spots, because some of this money's going to start drying up with the streaming services, with the television rights, with everything else. It can't keep going at this rate, Stugotz. One of the other things I thought that was interesting from Skipper and Sampson, I thought unique to me in my age, was that every once in a while I can't find a UM game that I'm looking for because my cable service doesn't get the ACC network, and they're saying to the fans, prepare for a future very soon where there are going to be games all over the place where you don't know how to find them because you haven't bought that streaming service. That people are
Do you
going.
have Apple TV though? Do you?
Yes.
That's where it is, right?
No, it's all over the place.
Okay.
It's all over the place.
What do you mean? No, because it happens to me. I go to DirecTV. I go to like 611, 612. I don't have ACC Plus, and then I go to Apple TV. I go to the
ACC
ESPN Plus, and then I find the game right there.
You
It's
mean
easy.
like the Apple
I mean,
TV like OTT device?
yeah, whatever it is.
Or like the
you know?
Apple TV Plus like streaming
Okay,
app.
I'm sorry. I've been where
Doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay, yes.
If you want to hear this discussed
nailed it.
intelligently, go
I
to
mean-
the South Beach sessions today with John Skipper and
let-
David Sampson.
You guys laughed at me because I said
Should've
I
been a
didn't want
part
to
of it.
explain
I mean-
Peacock to my grandparents.
My point is that it's not
Streaming
as
Peacock.
as is obvious by what just happened with Stugotz. It's not going to be long before this. My point was delivered to him. Your age and your inability, and my age, and because we're aging out of some of this stuff. Because I don't mean to isolate you on this. Is going to make it so that you can't find multiple games you're looking for, and you're going to be buying $4.99,
I
$6.99
keep doing it. Yeah.
things here and there that you'll never use again because something has appeared. Like this is changing in front of us in a way that's is about to make sports fans really uncomfortable. Not the younger ones though. It'll become their new normal. I just wonder, Stugotz, when you're used to finding everything for free, everything where you have it, now everything's going a la carte. And that's where some more big money is that Miami is climbing toward, because Miami just got back in the big business of college football.
I was talking to a friend that covers the University of Miami, and I think he planted this seed with me so I could say it on this platform. If John Ruiz really wants to help the University of Miami, he shouldn't build a stadium. He should buy Miami out of their ACC deal. Because then they won't need John Ruiz's money to buy a stadium if they join the Big Ten or SEC.
Be a free agent.
So I'm just planting that seed with you, Mr. Ruiz.
Be a renegade. Be totally Miami. Be an
Buy us out.
anarchist.
Why would you do that? You'd have to. Your schedule would get so much harder.
No, it wouldn't. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not worried
Like
about
the
Big
SEC,
Ten.
it would be harder. Of
No,
course.
yeah,
You're in
but
the
The Big
SEC.
Ten would be
we're
great.
also going to get better, Jess, in this plan.
Mhm.
This plan is contingent on what's just happened and more resources pumping in here because you have a better TV deal. I don't think Miami is going to leave the ACC now that it's expected at any moment Miami is going to announce Dan Radakovich as its athletic director, who's an old-timer ACC guy who has good relationships. But the ACC has lacked vision for decades on end. It is presently locked into a very bad TV deal, and it's costing the University of Miami some serious money. So if John Ruiz wanted to do something with very clear impact, because I know there were frustrations inside that Heck building about the ACC deal, John Ruiz should help buy us out of this.
Yes, get the billionaires' money. Look at Mike Ruiz.
And Jess is shaking her head like, I don't want the SEC smoke and Big Ten smoke. We didn't hire this coach to shy away from it. Miami wants to smoke.
Mike, you guys should become independent.
Yeah.
Would love that.
Renegade Miami, seal
Would
off. Get Cristobal to seal
love
off South Florida. Just seal it off, Mario. They're all coming to get their players here anyway. Just seal it off.
Just don't duck us.
Nobody's allowed. Get DeSantis to put a barrier between Miami and the players. Just have to go to school here. And you can't have them, Saban, for your football factory anymore. You can't come down here in your helicopter and land on our high school fields. Get out of here. Just create a sort of mini Cuba, Cristobal. Like break us free.
With DeSantis, though, with his help.
Yeah, you're going to need
because
Marco.
he can't be
You're going
bought,
to need
so, I
Marco
mean.
Rubio and a whole lot of other help here. You got to but create a wall. Put it on the poll, Whittingham at LeBatard Show. If you got all the players from Miami, would you win the championship? Yes or no?
All right, that's the end of the local hour.
I love how old I sounded.
So I'm trying to get on his like Comcast account or something. He didn't know the password, so we have to go through like 50 steps to get there. And I got so frustrated with him at one point because he refused to do it my way, which would have been to just get my own Apple thing and log in through it myself. Like he refused to do it the easy way. He had to do it his way. And it took like an hour. At one point, it was like 9 o'clock. I was like, I'm going to bed. I'm going to
Learning-
bed. I cannot do this
learning-
anymore.
I love him.
So many parents. I talked to so many parents who are just having all sorts of trouble teaching their fourth grader math because they're not doing math anymore the way that you were taught math. And so you basically feel like a total idiot just trying to teach your child fourth and fifth grade things because of evolutions. And I felt what Stugotz felt in that last segment one time when I was just coming upon streaming. It wasn't that long ago. And I believe I was watching something on Hulu, and at that point, I was just referring to everything as Netflix. I was just, and so at that point, the only information I sort of had on what streaming is it's all Netflix, right? And so I did what you just did, which is
What did I do?
It's all just Apple TV, right? And it's fair. There are only 3 or 4 of them. Like in a few years, it's all just going to be Google and Apple. And Netflix, but yes, that's what's happened to us because the whole marketplace, and I love that we're going to live in the middle of the space where all this changes, whether it's the Manning casts and you see Guerrilla Television pop up and how Disney handles, okay, this is how to do it a little bit differently through the Manning cast. I think content is about to change so much and in such a wonderful way because it's the golden age and all these actors are coming out of the pandemic and all of them are finding work everywhere. Like everybody's working because we learned during the pandemic that we really want our entertainment. We want our escape. We want all these things. And so I am fascinated to watch as creators take more and more control over their own content, how this realm changes, because I think the sports documentary is going to go to shit, because I think with like this Richard Williams thing where I see that Venus and Serena are executive producers on it, and I'm like, oh man, they went after school special because they had to do it with Venus and Serena's approval. And all across Showtime, there are a bunch of Access documentaries, and all of them are no good because it's Russell Westbrook, which I'd actually like to hear that story. But not by Russell Westbrook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's going to shine himself in the absolute best light. Yes.
But we're getting old, Mike. Like this is
No, you're not. Stop saying that. Stop guessing where media is going to go. Stop calling everything Apple TV. You guys just won the sports media event of the year.
Right.
Hey!
By changing the game.
Mhm.
By going
What'd we do?
24 hours live on YouTube with freedom. Stop pretending like you're not a part of the revolution.
According
Stop
to whom?
sounding like doddering old fogies.
According to whom?
Big Lead awarded you that.
I tried to buy the Big Lead once.
Did you really?
Many years ago.
What
yes.
happened?
Jason McIntyre didn't want to sell it.
Huh.
It was almost at the beginning of the blogs, I guess, right? Like, because it was the Big Lead was a sort of journalistic deadspin, not quite as not nearly
It's a revelation.
as edgy.
It's an amazing revelation.
I've never known that about Dan, that he tried to buy a
Right.
media empire before he started his own 20 years later.
Yeah. No idea.
I
15
tried.
years later.
You know what though? It wasn't like that back then. I wanted to help McIntyre build that into something, and he didn't want to take on any partners. Is what it was. Like he didn't want to. He didn't want support.
So
He felt-
negotiations stalled.
He felt well. It was just like he didn't want to sell part of it. But
Right.
I was
Big
looking at
mistake.
the idea of. I mean, God, Mike, there's so much content out there. I don't know if you've seen a Netflix documentary on how Gawker was bankrupted and Deadspin was through Hulk Hogan's sex tape. Like this is a thing that happened in America, and it'll leave your mouth hanging open. And at what took a hatchet to journalism and knocked out Gawker, which did some dirty things, but also did some interesting things. How billionaires took over and funded Hulk Hogan's sex tape being able to bankrupt Gawker. It was a fascinating documentary, and I'm very eager, Mike, to see what the next 10 years look like in this space, because I think a lot of interesting things can be made. But do you agree with me that it's not going to be by the athletes? Like I heard
the
you guys making
documentaries.
fun of the Tom Brady, the Man in the Arena
I haven't
podcast.
heard. Have you heard anybody talking about that documentary?
No.
This is the first conversation I've had about it, and I've been thinking, I'm like,
Wait,
if that
these are-
thing was good, I would have heard about
Mike,
it.
these are two different things, though. I think Tom Brady is doing like a 9-part thing. I might be with Apple. I think it might be. And that's one kind of documentary. But he also is getting into the audio space now, trying to create parts of the empire that will be post-career.
With Jim Gray.
And with Jim Gray. And it's like Man in the Arena was the podcast I heard some of you guys making fun of yesterday. Like, make me listen to that. Make me listen to a podcast by, who does that? Is it ESPN Plus?
Yeah, and we're making fun of it for reasons of
Stop
hating
saying
Tom
places
Brady.
where you think things are.
Well, where
Just-
are they? I
Just say, where is that? Don't venture a
Netflix?
guess.
I mean-
Podcast doesn't live on ESPN Plus. God damn it, guys.
We all hate Tom Brady, so you can't pay me to watch any Tom Brady thing. Like when he did that Facebook thing a few years ago, and there was like that whole meme that spun out from it.
It's with Gotham Chopra. So
It is?
Who's a
Yeah.
partner with LeBron James at Religion of Sport, I believe.
Huh.
I know Strahan's involved in that.
That's a company, Stugotz.
What happened to Jim Gray, though? I mean,
He does LFG with Tom Brady, which is
Oh.
the podcast series. But back to Man in the Arena, which is the ESPN documentary feature that's multi-part. This was basically their follow-up to the Michael Jordan thing that Netflix helped, and Netflix has a little bit more experience in having broader appeal. I haven't heard anybody talking about Man in the Arena. I'm under the impression, because I'm getting advertisements on it, that it's out, that there's portions of it out. Doesn't appear to be very good because I don't hear any word on the street chatter.
But I did see it climbing in the audio space because Derek Jeter's got a documentary that's going to be in 4 parts, and I'm sure someone's working on Magic Johnson, and I don't know how many parts.
So if there's a audio component to Man in the Arena, that's ESPN probably doing something very smart, which is mobilizing its podcast space to promote its own documentary feature.
Now they do
Well,
it.
look, they don't. Their audio space needs a lot of work, and that's really just using audio as a marketing tool, which is smart and kind of how they operate it, not as a content division, and not even really as a revenue division, because they kind of struggled in the years that we were there to really monetize it. Maybe they're getting better at it.
I don't think that people understand Stugotz in the way that our business is built, that we were trying to build this at ESPN. It would have been much easier if they just if it had just felt
if
like
they liked us.
well, if it had just felt like
part of
what support whatever.
They
If-
just trusted us more.
like what
We're
we are
hard to
building
trust.
now, we were trying
Yeah.
trying to build for them, and we could not successfully do it. We almost did, and then it petered out.
Well, I would buck up against the notion that we didn't help them do it, because for a long time we were the only thing they had. I know Zach Lowe, that's actually not exactly true. Fantasy and Zach Lowe performed well too, but we were a huge chunk of their digital audio audience. You can see it now when we're out of there and we're on our own, exactly how important we were to them. But we were a huge success over there, and I needed ESPN to build the LeBatard and Friends network and learn what exactly I didn't like about building a network and use their resources to make some mistakes. I wish I would have had more resources, but I was thankful that they went along with the notion.
I thought more resources were coming.
Well, part of it is they said more resources were coming, and we never got more resources.
But then the
and,
pandemic hit,
and then Chris Cody got fired.
and so there. Okay, yes, Jessica.
I was just going to make a point that now the accompanying podcast to video thing is like the new norm. Like, I don't know if you've been watching this season of Succession, and this has happened with other HBO properties in the past, but now there are going to be more and more of this. Like, HBO has a companion podcast hosted by Kara Swisher every week, because people who make these shows know that there's such a vacuum for fans to do it. So they're like, well, we want a piece of that too. Like, we know you're going to listen to a podcast about recapping the episode of Succession, so we're going to make it. We're going to have someone really like cool host it. Kara Swisher's a huge name in like tech and reporting, and we're going to do it ourselves. And it's a pretty cheap way to make some revenue.
It's why the Ringer, the Bill Simmons partnership made sense, because
Yeah.
he provided the infrastructure to open their eyes to exactly how to do that.
It's such a golden age, though, and you guys can imagine this, right? Imagine Billy Corben, any one of the Cocaine Cowboys series, because of something that you're working on for 8 or 12 years. Imagine how much cutting room stuff didn't
I
make.
mean, I did with some of the sequels. Sorry, Billy.
No, yes. Which one is it? It's no, but you're talking about.
He'll admit to some
No,
missteps
no,
there.
the one hustling with the godmother. I
Yeah.
think
The second one. That's the second one.
that was a money grab. Yes. No, but I'm talking about.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm talking about the most recent.
I heard that it's better. I'm getting to him.
No, but you haven't gotten to them, and
Not one.
if you had gotten to them, because it was a very popular Netflix series, this is a totally different story from the other Cocaine
Yeah, I know.
Cowboy
I'm
story.
waiting for this one.
And he could have just very easily, just with the spillage on what he didn't use, he could have created a great podcast series to accompany it. But there's so much money now in the making of the documentaries that's just eventually this content train is going to head to a place where the podcasts are just the cans on the back of the vehicle. But you see, the whole industry is changing, Stugotz, all of it, how you consume it. You're not going to the movie theaters anymore. We're all going inside on this stuff, right? Like you're eventually,
You take that back.
the movie theater's going to die. How soon?
I locked in a ticket last week for a movie that's coming out next week.
What do you mean locked in a ticket?
You
I feel
got
like
to.
you just show up the
No,
day
it's like-
of and
it's
get
like-
it.
No, it's like the sneakers app. You got to lock in your Spider-Man Far From Home tickets.
A
What
week in
show?
advance?
This is 2 weeks in advance.
What?
Yeah, I'm telling you, the Spider-Man movie.
Mike,
is
you
going
show
to
up
bring
in
the
2
theater
weeks, there'll be
back.
plenty of tickets. I mean,
Nah.
yeah, there will be.
Nah.
And no one's going to the theaters.
Nah, I don't want to go to those GA theaters. I need an assigned seat and a bottle of Bordeaux.
Who was that? Who was
He's a Steelers fan, Dad.
really? Is this a couple? Is it the two of you? You with the white Zinfandel and
My
him with the
ex-husband,
Bordeaux?
Mike.
Once you have yourself a nice decanted bottle of Bordeaux at the cinema, you're just never going back to the sticky floors and instant buttered popcorn. No, no, no. For a cinematic experience like Spider-Man Far From Home,
Weird man.
you're going to want to cozy up in a love seat to the partner of your choice, crack open that bottle of Bordeaux, and watch Tom Holland swing from building to building.
The hockey guy and Alan Thicke was in there.
Well, you mentioned Alan Thicke, and thank you for the segue because
The only thing more relaxed than going to Doral City Place and ordering a bottle of Bordeaux at 12 in the afternoon to watch the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe entree is probably getting the Santa Ana winds brush across your hair and face while you're rooting on the ponies.
you know what? I heard some Christian Bale. In there in American Psycho. There was
This is a totally new voice. Man. The key to it is
Creeping
really
me out.
having my neck veins pop out.
You mentioned here, Mike. I want to
Just a
ask you
nice
guys.
little bottle of Bordeaux, maybe some Xanax.
Hint of Andrew Luck.
Yeah, it is like American Psycho Andrew Luck. Papa Zany, they're beautiful prescriptions.
All right.
Maybe a Zinf if it's earlier, and let Tom Holland whisk you away in a cinematic
It's
dreamscape.
American Psycho with a pituitary problem, is what it is.
I can't wait to find out exactly how convoluted the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse might be. But I think a true talent like Benedict Cumberbatch can really tie it all together for me. And me and my wife are pumped.
The neck.
Roy, I want to talk to you because I feel like because Stugotz keeps wanting me to sink into the age of all of this, and I've been uncomfortable sinking into the age of it. But last night, this was something out of the 1980s. What happened to me, and it made me feel, Stugotz,
Yeah.
1,000,000 years old.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it also made me smile in the middle of my 1,000,000 years old.
Okay.
As all of this changes around us, as I remember a time when network television meant something. It meant something in America to be on one of the big channels because we only had 3 of them.
Yep.
Okay, we only had before
There was
Fox.
no Fox when Dan and
Okay,
I were
we
growing
only-
up.
Remember how big movie night on the networks were?
Yes.
When a movie that was released 2 years ago in cinemas was finally after making its way through premium cable and then basic cable, was ready for its network TV debut. I remembered like just being around after the NBA on NBC was promoting Jurassic Park's debut on network television.
Big deal.
It was a cultural event because now everyone had access to Jurassic Park.
But Mike, growing up, me and Dan had CBS, NBC, ABC, the George Michael Sports Machine, and Sports Phone. Yes.
No, I think George Michael, I couldn't get, no. Look at Roy's old enough. Okay.
I watched George Michael.
I think George Michael was not
Ahead of his time,
he was not
Dan.
the fourth network, Stugotz. I
It
think
was for me. It was ESPN.
no, this is before ESPN.
He didn't know what was going on way back then.
But listen to the time I'm going to take you because television really transported me last night in a way that made me feel ancient, fossilized, nostalgic, and also nice, Stugotz. At 8 p.m. at an appointed time,
Yes.
they were going to do live on television a reenactment of Facts of Life and Different Strokes, led by Jimmy Kimmel, in which some of Hollywood's biggest actors, the people that you like, will be popping out and just basically rummaging around in the childhood of people of a certain time, okay? Because this meant nothing to many young people watching in America to have the girls from Facts of Life as adults come out and sing the song that Alan Thicke wrote that was the theme song to Facts of Life. It actually moved me because these girls who were, I don't know, I guess 12 when I was 12. I don't know what the age was, but are now women, and they were coming out, and network television has never felt sort of older, and it always is old, right? But this was ABC, a family network led by Jimmy Kimmel, bringing out Norman Lear. You can make Norman Lear as the best television writer in the history of the medium.
I watched this last night. It really, it put a smile on my face to see Kevin Hart as Arnold in his room with Damon Wayans and Snoop Dogg and Different Strokes. It was so much fun. My wife and I were enjoying it, and we asked my kids to come watch it, and they were bored in 30 seconds.
Oh, my God. It was so bad, and I felt like I was in the 50s, how they used to watch television in the 50s. I couldn't have felt more. As I'm sitting there smiling watching it,
Right.
I'm also mortified by, oh, no, this is making me emotional, and I am days away from being the audience of these. I don't know if you've seen these infomercials in the morning at like 6 a.m. where they bring out the oldest of rock stars looking every bit they're 80 years old to sell on a landline to a grandma still watching television because she can't sleep at 4 a.m. And she's like, hey, there's Frankie Valli. I felt like one of those people last night while watching network television because I'm like, oh my God, I'm fucking ancient.
I'm like 1 for 20 on names that you've referenced so far. Like Alan Thicke, I know who that is.
What? Oh, okay.
Well, this is what
Scared me
hurts
for a
us, though.
second.
This is the part that hurts us. He died as a friend of our show. Mike Ryan sobbed in a bathroom when Alan Thicke died. Pieces of our childhood are dying on television. Like, Norman Lear's 99 out here with a ponytail. He's 99, Stugotz.
I know, but they're bringing it back.
He
I
wrote
mean,
Sanford and Son.
He's aging well, though. At 99,
He had a ponytail at 99. How does he have that confidence?
you can rock a hat, too.
But would you ever imagine that a 99-year-old would ever be cool enough to rock a ponytail? I mean, I'm not saying maybe he's not cool. Maybe it's not possible. Is it possible for a 99-year-old?
I don't know. Probably not. But he is.
They gotta keep on keeping on. It would be really weird for them to hit 80 and just be like, well, I'm gonna start dressing like your peepaw. I like that Iggy Pop, while he's way more reserved than he used to be and has a pet parrot, he's still Iggy Pop. You know, like he's still kind of cool, even though he wears glasses and enjoys reading. You can't age totally like a grandpa if you're a rock god.
But the problem that we have around here, Mike, is in right now, as I speak of this time of Alan Thicke and
No one knows what we're talking about.
Blair from Facts of Life. All the people who do know how.
Tootie.
No, this is Tootie. Yes.
Yeah, Kim Fields.
Tootie.
Kim Fields went on to do Living Single, which is where most of us actually know her from, us millennials.
This is the part that's frustrating to me. And this is where the audience turns on me, Stugotz. The people who do want to hear about this don't know how to access the devices that can get them to it. So, like,
My dad would have loved this segment.
This is my frustration that we exist now in a tube in this streaming world, hurtling toward the future, and the people who do want to hear a conversation about me getting misty watching Jimmy Kimmel introduce Facts of Life in different strokes, none of them can access the show. The only one around it are the people who hate me for it.
How great was Mrs. Garrett, though? Different stroke. Mrs. G.
I was so happy to see you have Jason Bateman came out and all these people, because Jon Stewart came out. Jon Stewart, you're not going to allow it to age gracefully.
I know who that
either.
is.
Well, Jennifer Aniston was on as well. They brought the star power. It was
You know her?
It was
I've heard of her.
it
from
was
friends.
ABC flexing its ABC muscle. Gabrielle Union was in it. Kevin Hart. You know, it was a bunch of star power for a live broadcast. As live television, network television, hangs on to what remains of its life.
Keep in mind, they did this previously with All in the Family, and Jimmy Foxx played George Jefferson, which was a sight to behold. That was actually a good rendition there.
I'm telling you that it's what network television can now do to get an audience on a night. It's so hard for network television now, Stugotz, to get anyone, hey, can you come here at 8 p.m. and please watch us right now?
You know, Jamie Foxx is going to be in the newest iteration of the Spider-Man franchise. However, he was from a previous studio, but he's getting back into Tom Holland's universe. How? I think it's because Peter is just a rabble-rouser and he goes to Doctor Strange, and it's all convoluted. He puts his own interests in front of the rest of the planet, and that's how Jamie Foxx enters a picture. But why is he no longer blue? I'm really interested in finding out exactly what happened there. I may go back for a nightcap, pop an Ambien, and open up a Malbec, and me and my partner are going to drift away into the cinematic landscape.
I'm laughing at your neck. I'm Mike Glennon.
Me and my partner.
Yes, my lovely life partner. We don't like to put labels on things. We're working it out.
Okay. All right.
Through therapy and costume parties and really overanalyzing the lyrics to the Pina Colada song. We're getting places through the help of some Xannies and some Zim.
Wait a minute. That was the surfer guy.
I'm telling you, man. He's in there somewhere.
The Xannies was the surfer guy.
Luca finally said what we've been thinking for a couple of years. I'm fat.
You're fat?
No, he's fat.
Well, I've been thinking you've been fat for a couple of years, too.
You know what? I looked at a picture last night of me and Tony Khan, who was in studio a couple of weeks ago. I sent it to him. He asked me to send it to him. Holy shit, am I fat? Like, no, it's
The
like
heaters did that to you, too, man.
they're supposed to make you skinnier.
Well, no, but you're also grieving, Stugotz. You didn't grieve. Like, we were in the pandemic and you didn't grieve. We went right to jokes, trying to keep people laughing, and
True.
you ate a bunch of cigarettes.
I did. That was my grieving process.
You gained
That's how
20
you gain the
pounds
weight.
in cigarettes, and then you'll have to run
I was
it.
smoking them, eating them.
You'll,
You're right.
you'll have to go jogging, and some ash will fall out of your body, and you'll get back into shape.
It's interesting that you
Thanks,
think
Dan.
it's interesting that you think the big NBA weight story is Luka.
It's not.
Because Whitty alerted me to the low post recently.
Hold on. If people don't know this, they're gonna find this shocking if they don't know what these guys are about to say, because I did not know before I heard.
There's a more interesting fat story than Luca finally admitting that I'm fat.
You tell me. You tell me if this one's more interesting.
Yeah, so Zach Lowe and Tim McMahon of ESPN were having a conversation about Luka. He's like, well, he's like 260. And Tim McMahon goes, yeah, well, he's 260. I've heard from people in New Orleans that Zion Williamson is 260 plus 70. And I'm like, whoa. I was like listening on speed. And so I'm like, I slowed it down to 1x speed to like half speed.
That's like 290.
So I was like, I
laughing at?
slowed it down to like half speed. so that I need to hear this, because did Tim McMahon just say that people think that Zion Williamson is 330 pounds?
I don't know. Somebody's gonna need to help me with the math of muscles, because and fat, and how it is that we do some of these measurements. LeBron would not get on a scale when he was in Miami, because he didn't want people to know that he was over 280 for whatever his reasons. And obviously the way he carried 280 was bulky, but it was never out of shape. It was never fat. It was never looking like Luka or Zion does in some of these pictures. But if you tried to weigh Shaq during his playing days, I really don't know. 330 sounds unbelievable, but his density, I don't know, even if he's maximum fit and I put him on a scale, what that dude is weighing. Can he possibly be anything other than 330 pounds that's 70 pounds overweight?
I think his training regimen, he obviously looked at his shape for the photos that we all saw. If his training regimen is just to lift after he put on all that girth, then the fat turns into muscle, but you get like this meat boned effect, and then you're even heavier than you would be if it were just fat. But I'm not a strength and conditioning coach, but I saw the photo of him in that red jumpsuit.
It looked awful.
And he looked heavy. He did.
I mean, he's 6'6". If you're 6'6", you should not be somewhere between 290 and 330.
Yeah, he's not. For his position and his style of play, he's undersized the way that Charles Barkley was.
Just so that you guys know what we're doing on measurements here, because this is a historically strong player in the post. I really don't know what his ideal playing weight would be. Like I am alarmed of, like all of you are. Is that 70 pounds overweight? Is that flabby? Is that beignets? Like, is he now like trying to get back into shape but hasn't been able to get enough cardio in because his body's not, functioning correctly? So now he's just getting thicker, and he's only, 22?
There was always a dietary concern with Zion Williamson and at Duke, and that was always the book on him, and you got to whip him into shape, and he got into shape, I think, when he was playing his best ball at New Orleans, but he's obviously, just from the body type, you can already assume he's gained, tons and tons of weight after that. He is a very heavy set man right now, and that tracksuit that he was wearing was hugging his body. You can get an idea of his form. There weren't abs there.
He bought that like 2 years ago, and he's still trying to wear it. I mean,
it's always felt like Zion has played slightly overweight, because it always felt like his athleticism was too much to carry, that the power that he plays with is too much to land at 270 pounds, which was in theory his kind of normal weight. But it's always, the conversation has always been, he has to drop weight at some point, not because it impedes his ability to play, but that he can't stay healthy for 82 and potentially 28 more games. Like, he can't play that many games at the weight that he was at last year when he was playing Zion, when he nearly got the Pelicans into the playoffs. Like, that was unsustainable. This certainly is.
This is crazy, though, to think about, right? Because you're talking about largely a body that doesn't have precedent in the sport. You're talking about largely someone at that size able to do things at the rim in terms of strength and power and size that has very little precedent, if any, in the sport. And now you're telling me it needs to lose weight in order to stay healthy. Like, he has to make sure that he is losing weight to stay healthy. But if he loses weight, does he stop being Zion Williamson? Because if you keep losing,
he'll always be Zion Williamson. Okay?
Yes, you're okay. He can keep the name, but you understand what I'm saying.
It feels like he's always going to have that explosiveness, right? Like, his most defining characteristic is being explosive. I don't think, I would have to think that that's hurt by carrying more weight, and that if he were 250, that he could be even more explosive. Like, it's not like he's Shaq sticking his backside into a defender in the post.
Oh, but he
just leaps out of the gym.
But it doesn't hurt from 19 to 24. It's later. It's when you're talking about these guys as franchise guys across. I mean, LeBron's still carrying the franchise, no matter how old the Lakers are. That body has been carrying economies across the finish line for 2 decades. That, like that's the tribute to LeBron. Like you're not the danger spot that Zion's in right now is, oh wait, no, really, are you going to be weight fluctuation guy? You're not going to figure this out. Your body's going to start breaking down. You're going to squander one of the great bodies and athleticisms we've ever seen because of weight issues, joint issues, health issues. Yeah, that's interesting because I think at this point you see a picture like that, and what does it do other than cast doubt over which way's this story headed?
The whole conversation makes me uncomfortable. Like, do we know what his health is? Like, that health is a deeply personal thing that I just don't think we have all of the information at. I don't think we can make assumptions that his weight and his health are correlated in any way without being his physician.
But we've seen him get hurt in every season he's played basketball. Like,
and you're assuming that it's because of his weight, but you don't know that.
I don't know that, but it can't
help.
It can't help.
Right.
You don't know that. You don't know that. Like, that's not a fact.
I wouldn't trust a 330-pounder trying to play an NBA basketball game with his body type at 6'6". I would say that's really unhealthy.
But Shaq did it across.
He's 7'1".
That's a
Shaq's
lot of weight.
7'1".
Like it's a weight
Like
that he's
Barkley
carrying on
was
his
so
joints
lean.
with
Like
that frame.
I think I called him chubby the other day, round mound of rebound. But I mean, Barkley was so lean and so quick. He was not north of 300 pounds, and he's the same height as Zion.
If his game is not just jumping out of the gym, but also landing, and he is landing at, let's estimate,
putting that weight on it. Right.
45 pounds overweight, that is crashing down on his joints. I would be concerned if I'm making an investment to him. And Zion, I know that there's already a lot of rumors about him wanting to leave New Orleans already. It's hard to believe that we've been there that we're here already, because I feel like in his time in New Orleans, he hasn't been playing longer than he has been playing. But if you want to be that kind of in-demand talent, it can't be like this. I really hope we see the Zion that we saw playing his best ball.
They haven't gotten to the spot where they have to give him. No one's ever not taken the large deal that Zion would be due if he simply weren't eating too much, correct? Like correct me on where we are on his contract status, because he's got a decision to make soon. He can eat his way out of the league from here.
To Jess's point, I'm not necessarily sure we should say eat his way. You eat like a cow would eat. But you have grown over the last few years. You're not stuffing your face with Mountain Dew and hot Cheetos. Every time I offer you some sort of junky food, you say you can't eat it. But you've grown.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that it's sports, and so physical shape and ability is a big factor in that. But I think that when we are talking about his weight, we should be careful that we're linking that with his health, because weight is not necessarily an indicator on health. And I think that the way that we talk about weight is very stigmatized.
But can you help me with this? Because I would think that it would be allowed where we're talking about joints and just common sense, because Vince Carter says at the end of a career where he has taken care of his body throughout, that the only problem with dunking, and he'll be able to do it 50 or 60, is landing. And if people have worried about his weight and tied it to his ability to stay healthy, what part of that would not be fair to talk about? What part of that is what link am I making there that is not a fair one to
just saying
make?
we're not doctors, that we can't.
Yeah, I just think that like it's a really personal thing, and it's something in this country that a lot of people struggle with. It's a huge contributor to mental illness for a lot of people. So listening to people speculate about someone's weight and whether or not they're healthy is something that I think is something that you need to be really careful with when we're having these conversations. I don't think that it's necessarily completely off limits. I know that like
we're talking about sports though. Like this is like this is your like if like we get on Stugotz all the time for smoking heaters before the show because it's bad for your voice. Like we know it's bad for your voice. Your voice is your instrument. Your body in this case is your instrument. LeBron James invests millions of dollars in his instrument because he knows it's the most fundamental part of his being. And we know that being in shape is good for sports. Like that's fundamental. And I know that there are various versions of it. Like you said, Dan, like LeBron carrying 280 is a lot different than what we're talking about. But I just like, I disagree with the notion that we shouldn't talk about Zion when this is his, this is his career.
I agree with that, Dan. Just on the contract stuff real quick. So Zion is in his third season. Luka, after his second season, signed that rookie extension where he signed the 5-year, $207 million rookie extension. There's no way you would pay Zion Williamson that kind of money right now. You cannot have any confidence that he's going to be healthy moving forward. You can't.
I think Jessica has a pretty good governor for things here too, and so we should be careful about how we're talking about it because she's right. Like I have no idea how Zion. I know a pandemic happened, and I myself gained weight throughout the pandemic.
It's the way we've always talked about this. Okay, to be clear, this space has been absent. This perspective in the history of talking about sports in mainstream media. Because objectifying a fat guy or skinny guy in sports, I've lived it, okay? I've been right at the center of you're allowed to do it to me and drag me all over the place. I'm a fat guy. It's allowed. 2021, for whatever the reason, stigmas, everything else, I, from the perspective of fat guy, can speak on behalf of fat guys here. Zion Williamson getting to 330, every man in this audience who's a sports fan is going, uh-oh. Is just going when combining it with the pictures because he's a young man.
The fact that he's not playing.
Well, I think weight and ability are two different conversations. Is the weight causing an inability to play at the highest level? It's possible. We don't know that for a fact. Like we haven't really been able to see him play because he's been injured. Do we think his weight's contributing to his injuries? I don't know that. I don't think that's an assumption that we can all make. We don't know what's going on with him, and we don't know that weight contributes to those types of injuries. Like, I haven't seen any studies on that. I don't know if that's true.
I see your point, but just evaluating it just from my background, which is not very educated in this whatsoever, if you tell me you make the investment to draft Zion Williamson #1, and by what are we now, year 3?
This is his
tricky.
third year, yes.
It's tricky with NBA seasons. And then
He hasn't played a
pandemic.
game yet this year.
But year 3, he hasn't played a game. He showed up into camp out of shape from all indications, just from year-over-year photographs that we've seen at media days. In terms of an investment
It is
that
a bit
I've made,
shadowy and weird, right? Like some of the news out of Jacksonville and New Orleans where you're like, why aren't we getting more information? Like, why are we not just sitting Zion in front of some people who can talk to where he is mentally? Are we afraid to put him in front of cameras? Like what?
So let's separate the two because Jess is making fair points and things that we should consider. Separate the two. The fact that he is, I don't care what Jess says, he's overweight, okay, and he's injury prone. So separate the two. They have nothing to do with one another, which is a fair thing for you to say and call us out on. You still could have zero confidence in signing Zion Williamson.
Jess is right to say
Yes.
you don't know what the cause and effect is.
Agreed.
But I do know a cause for him getting effective on the court is getting closer to the playing weight that we saw him perform at an elite level. There is just no way, knowing what I know about his game, knowing that he's undersized, carrying all that weight at his frame. Look, it was pretty ridiculous that he was doing it at the weight that he was doing it. Now you make it a 330. I had never seen someone operate the way Zion had in terms of body type and how he carried his weight. And the strength was a big part of that, the explosiveness. At 330, I don't see Zion being that kind of player anymore. And that would be very worrying if I were a New Orleans person.
Could we talk to Stan Van Gundy about something like that as a fellow fat person in sports who also is someone who at every turn, Stugotz, I have found Stan Van Gundy to be really bright and informed about the things in sports that are kind of bullshit all over the place.
Mhm.
And I would imagine that Stan would be pretty interesting on the subject of, I still don't understand what happened to him in New Orleans. They were playing better. They were doing better. And I don't know, Zion Williamson did seem to be, as far as I could tell, in good shape when he was with Stan, right? And this could be
The playing better part is very overstated. They just weren't getting the results they expected with Stan Van Gundy. There were a lot of people that weren't responding to Sands' solid
Right, but
coaching
something-
But in terms of his play and his conditioning.
Something went wrong. They had improved in places, whatever, statistically. I'm making Stan's argument for him on why it is that he believes he should have stayed, but now they're worse, and they're worse because Zion's not out there. The whole thing's built around him. Like the only way that can spring, the only way as a franchise that can springboard is if he's a star. It's not going to be Ingram or any of their other guys. Like he's got.
I mean, Ingram's pretty good, but they need Zion to be
a
great.
star.
Yes. Not just a star, Dan. Coming out of college, I mean, people were saying that he could be the next guy in the league, that he's next. Zion is next, and
he's been
barely
incredible.
played. Yeah, when he plays.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
his last season, 61% from the field, 27 points a game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He ran point for them at times. He is an unbelievably effective player when he's available.
Am I allowed, without it being irresponsible, to wonder about that frame carrying a franchise, the responsibility of you come out of Duke after a year, you were never one of Zion Williamson. Weirdly, his senior year of college was not one of the big recruits in this country. Like he was like 3rd or 4th or 5th in like, I think on his team, maybe. I think it's possible that it was on his team or his region. So he was a big dunker, and people were like, well, that's not going to necessarily play in the league. How's that gonna...
Zion was a huge high school prospect. Like his games were on ESPN.
No, Mike.
Upstate South Carolina.
What he was viral.
But he was raw. Dan's right.
He was viral video. He was guy.
I would love to see this high school
No,
team.
no,
that
you
had him
know,
as the
forgive
4th
me.
best.
3rd best player at Duke. It was alleged that he was the 3rd best player getting to Duke. Not
when they
the
got
3rd.
R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson, there was one other recruit that year. They thought he was the third of
was
those
their
3.
third
Cam Reddish.
Big giant dunker. Forgive me. Yes, you've got it right. In high school, he was a menace, and people couldn't believe that something like that was dunking at that size and was that athletic. You go to college for 1 year at Duke, your life gets turned upside down. Super interesting team, hugely interesting college basketball team. You blow up a
Against
shoe.
Carolina. Right.
And people wonder, oh my God, is that going to cost him hundreds of millions of dollars, that body, right? The only concern you have is, will that body that doesn't have a lot of precedent stay healthy?
Here's the ESPN rankings on the recruiting classes of that year. Number 1, Barrett. Number 2 overall, Zion. Number 3, Cam Reddish. In terms of pro prospects, maybe what Dan is saying is accurate, but they got the 3 main guys.
I said on highly questionable the entire year covering him. I said it the entire year that because I'd read it somewhere that Zion Williamson, because I discovered him in high school, like a lot of people did, on highly questionable, and they told me again and again that he was the 3rd best prospect on Duke, and that began the hype for the Duke season of how good is this team going to be if this giant dunker guy is their 3rd best player. Zion Williamson goes to New Orleans and goes there as franchise savior. He is still a kid. Pandemic hits. He arrived. We worried a little about his weight, and then he came in super shredded. And you're like, well, of course, 21 years old, gets in a professional setting. It's going to be militaristic. Next thing you know, he's going to be a monster machine, muscular, 9% body fat, and he'll be a beast. And now you're looking at these pictures, and this is the heaviest you've seen him, right? Now,
By far, yes. The heaviest that anyone's ever seen Zion Williamson. Yeah. I mean, Dan, it's 330 pounds. That's the average weight of an offensive lineman. I mean, he's 6'6", and he's a basketball player.
And I do believe, though, we are in agreement, right, that at that age and in that sport, he could lose 50 pounds in 5 months.
He could. Yeah, I mean, playing yourself into shape is a real thing. Luka Doncic has basically done it every year, which is the origin of this conversation. You could do that, but there's going to be some struggles along the way. You'd imagine there's going to be some nights that he'll miss. And you're right, Jess. Like, ultimately, I can't prove that this is a 1 + 1 = 2 correlation, but all evidence of watching sport suggests that this is unsustainable and that his health is at least somewhat dependent on his playing weight.
What? No, you can't say I think blah, 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 but I disagree with blah, blah, blah in the same sentence.
Jess, I don't like how you're making us think about this stuff. Okay?
I'm sorry. Like,
No,
I truly don't mean to be preachy about it or try to, like, be the Debbie Downer of every conversation, but, like, this is something that, like, listeners have reached out to me when we've talked about these issues and been like, thank you for saying X, Y, and Z. I have an eating disorder, and, like, it's important to hear that side of it. And I grew up with a family member who had an eating disorder, a very severe one that almost killed them multiple times. Went to rehab multiple times for months at a time because it's a really serious thing, and it's something that is largely baked into the way that we talk about not just athletes. And I understand it's a conversation about athletes first and foremost. And so there are the bodies of the athletes that are playing matter to the conversation in a way that it doesn't if you're someone who, works at a desk or works in sales. But the way that we talk about health and weight is so it's just so unfair. And I think people have just such a misunderstanding of how those things are actually correlated. And it's just something that like we as Americans do not really realize until we talk to someone who's like, hey, by the way, just because you weigh X weight doesn't mean you're unhealthy. And you're like, wow, really? Because everything that I saw growing up and everything that I learned growing up was that if you're fat, you're bad. And fat's unhealthy. And fat's ugly. And that's not true. Fat's okay.
Oh, thank you. I feel like the Stuart Smiley commercial right now. Thank you, Jess. Thank you for making it okay for me to be fat.
And me too.
Yeah, I've been this all my life. It's been a childhood insecurity, and I feel seen right now. And I feel protected, and I'm not actually making fun of eating disorder. What am I supposed to do with Zion Williamson is 330 pounds? Are his joints going to be able to sustain that level of play? Like, that seems to be pretty thinly sparsed production to weight without judging him on an eating disorder. I guess saying eating his way out of the league is something that is pejorative,
well,
but
I more so mean for people listening to this conversation who are then going to hear like the language and then apply it to themselves, because that's what we do with sports. Like, we see something and it's used as an example that we then use in our own lives.
Well, I would also say that people would view Zion Williamson as being unprofessional for being like, I think that's what happens is when people end up at 330 pounds, you say, well, Zion's being unprofessional.
Oh, he threw it
by carrying that weight.
Oh, no, he threw it all away.
Exactly, right?
It'll become you're an athletic cliche. You're a trope. You couldn't stay away from the barbecue.
I'm not pretending that that there might not be reasons, or I'm not saying that there might not be reasons why he is this weight, or that there might be something else there. I'm just saying it just seems unsustainable to be that weight, 330 pounds,
playing that explosively,
his height, and playing the game that he wants to play.
That's
I could
a
be
lot.
Wrong. I could be wrong. He can come back. He can prove me wrong.
I think this is what I feel like, and I may be wrong about this, but I feel like I can rule this as independent arbiter. Well, not independent. I can't be independent arbiter, but if I'm allowed to vote here, I think that this is the one space where we're allowed to objectify, just in this one space, the bones of Zion Williamson. Are they going? Is a size that we haven't seen in the league before going to hold up under more weight? Can that be thinly parsed enough, Jessica?
Well, we just don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know his medical history. I don't know that. I think that we make a lot of assumptions about people based off of limited information and preconceived notions about weight and health that are mostly pretty debunkable. Like, it would probably surprise most people to learn that being overweight, quote unquote, doesn't necessarily mean that you're unhealthy or that you're carrying more weight on your joints. Like, he's an elite athlete.
Even in professional sports?
I don't know it for a fact. It could be true, but I don't know that for a fact.
The Miami Heat's conditioning program, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, is almost entirely based on body fat percentage.
But Ndamukong Suh never gets hurt. And Ndamukong Suh plays that position, that style, that weight. Now, I would not call Ndamukong.
But he's not jumping up and down.
I would not call Ndamukong Suh fat. He's not jumping up and down, but what he's doing probably risks injury as much more to joints and everything else, I think. I don't know what it must, right? Being a defensive lineman must be worse for the body.
I love the idea now of Ndamukong Suh leaping 36 inches into the air and landing 50 times a game.
I mean, this is some of what we're talking about with this body type, right? It's not that Zion Williamson is Ndamukong Suh at 6'6", but we're talking about basically a mini Shaq.
But he is. That's the point. He's at 330 is the average weight of an offensive lineman. I mean, so Jess, it would take Luka's coming out and saying, "Yeah, I'm in bad shape. I need to do better." So if Zion does that, then we need to hear it from him.
I don't know if we necessarily need to hear it from him, but I just think that regardless, we shouldn't mistake it for his health. If he says I know for a fact that X causes Z, then sure, maybe we will take his word for it. But I don't know. Just to me, it just seems like a slippery slope argument to start having.
then
I probably look like the asshole there, but I'm like okay with that.
Yeah,
Well, Jess did a good
no,
job
but
making
it's
you
not,
look
but
like
it's not,
one.
No,
No,
because,
no. No.
And making me
Made
feel like
himself
one.
look like one.
Yeah,
No, that's
no,
the deal.
I- and
tell
like-
you, I've
and-
never been so scared to call someone fat in my entire life.
No,
The
Because
Pelicans
I
did
did
not
my
sign up
job.
for 330. I'm sorry. I'm starting to get angry.
It's fine.
I mean,
No, I'm telling you, like I am okay
Enough.
presenting. I'm okay
can I
presenting the
speak
viewpoint.
anymore? Hey, jeez. Hey, can I call a guy fat?
No,
No, it's
Why?
2021.
Luka called himself fat.
just me. I'm the only one. You're allowed. You have permission to call
on your
me
way.
fat.
Reggie Miller said Luka was out of shape. He's overweight. Reggie said it.
I loved being able to still use Dan as my fat example. I'm like, Dan, you eat like grass-fed sticks and you're still huge.
It's true. And you hurt me by saying and you've gained weight during the pandemic. It's true. I know.
I mean, I gained weight. during
We've
the
all been
pandemic.
sad. We've all been sad.
You make it seem like shedding weight is so easy, though. You're like, a couple of jogs.
I make it seem like it's
you said
easy.
it about me. You said it about Zion
No,
at
but
some
you-
point. I mean, it's hard. I mean,
If a 6'6" individual comes in at 330 for a checkup with a physician, the physician's going to say, if that person has any interest in getting healthier, you should lose weight. That is just from a medical perspective.
they'll say, Zion, what do you do for a living? I play basketball. 330, 6'6" can't be good for that. I mean, that's what a doctor would say.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily right. Like people who weigh
You're a
more.
doctor.
You're a
People
doctor.
who-
No,
people
I
who
would say
weigh more.
It's malpractice.
Doctor.
That's what that is. It's malpractice.
Enough.
Oh my God, I can't have this conversation with you guys.
you know what? I do not reject that notion. I think we're incapable. Look, you're here in large part to open huge new avenues of thought I had never considered, because this would have been a totally different conversation had you not alerted me to this, and I'm thankful. But in terms of a road that I have to go down for this, I feel like I have a lot longer to
No,
track.
but here's the other problem with this.
So when you say you can't have this conversation with me, I agree.
This is the problem with this as well too. You're taking away one of his signature 10 poles. If you take away his right to call me fat, Jessica, you have now taken away a fundamental Cuban American freedom.
And a brand new SUI category that I was really excited
like
about.
you can't.
Mike can do whatever
That's
he
fat
wants.
jokes?
I've never been like, hey, you shouldn't do. Have I ever been like, hey, you shouldn't do that?
No,
No,
but it
I'm a
hurts
lot
you.
more gun shy now to call him fat.
Well,
it-
that's on you.
No, it's on you.
No, this is 100% on you.
No, see me, hear
If
me.
you feel
It's on
bad about
everybody.
it and you're second guessing it, then like maybe you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
No,
If it
'cause
was an
I look at-
ironclad thing to call Dan, then me poking holes in it wouldn't matter.
Dan, cool if I call you fat?
Oh, but here's the thing though, Mike. I
ask your
see her
permission.
every time. This
yes.
is the
Dan,
answer.
May I continue calling you
The
fat?
answer, of course, is yes. I will never take that 10 pole from you. Of
Huge
course.
relief.
The answer, of course, is you, the audience, all of you. Yes,
My
you may.
production
You may,
skills at this point, 20 years into the game, are like 80% fat jokes.
you may continue. Yes, I don't want to take away the library we worked so hard to get from ESPN.
Mike and I have been chipping away at this for 20 years.
Yes,
I mean,
yes. No, please.
Dan, I called you like Earl of Sandwich Campbell once, and I lost sleep for like a week.
This is what I was going to say, though. This is where you guys aren't seeing the faces in the room the way that I'm seeing them, because I feel, now that I'm rewatching The Sopranos, I feel a little bit like Tony Soprano when they slow down all the guys in his crew and they're over laughing and he realizes that everyone's just a little bit fraudulent, and he looks inside his own soul and he sees a vulnerable human being who's alone. When you guys start laughing and pointing at all my childhood insecurities and yelling fat guy across 45 years, every time you do it, I eat it because we formed it here. And every time you do it, I see the wince on Jessica's face. It hurts her every time one of you comes out and stabs me with a fat joke. Every time I see it on her face. She will not contribute to that. She sits it out every time.
I'm not really a fat joke guy either, to be fair. Like I've in daily
Here comes the back pedal, Dan.
in daily life, I don't talk about anyone's weight. That's your business. But I'm talking about sports. I'm talking about sports.
Weight's a factor.
Like, the
yes.
Miami Heat's entire conditioning program is centered around your body fat percentage. The entire thing. You can't play at 330 pounds basketball at 6'6". You just can't.
I've never seen it happen.
Imagine Michael at 330 pounds.
I would love to. I am. It actually looks a lot like Zion.
It's a novel concept, but I actually think athletes deserve the same amount of sensitivity that we would talk about other people with, unless it's Aaron Rodgers. Like that dude.
Wait,
sucks.
no.
Hold on.
What?
Okay.
What
You've
did you
crossed
say?
the line,
Hold
woman.
on.
Stugotz, I don't know what's going to happen here, and we have talked some about the business intersections on China that are complicated from company to company and country to country and communism to freedom. But it would appear, like very obviously and very famously, that what is happening right now in China with Peng Shuai, their most famous active tennis player, is something that needs to be in the attention of America continually and the world continually as we head into the Beijing Olympics. And now politics around business are getting weakened, where the U.S. is having a diplomatic boycott, which isn't a real boycott. And China's mad about the diplomatic boycott, which is just like, our officials aren't going there. It doesn't mean we're not participating in the Olympics, but you've got the Women's Tennis Federation pulling out of China, saying, hey, proof of life, okay, you kind of did, I guess, but we're not sure she's safe. She made an allegation against a powerful figure, and we're not sure she's safe. And now we're doing the thing that other American businesses will not do. We're pulling out of China. We get a lot of money from China. We're pulling out until you can prove to us that this is this very simple human rights thing, Stugotz.
Right.
She made an allegation.
They didn't kind of do it, Dan. They didn't do it to the WTA satisfaction, so they pulled out of these events.
Okay, but now the IOC, still that guy, I mean, it's so corrupt, Stugotz. Now the IOC is finally saying it cannot give, quote, absolute certainty amid growing concern about Peng Shuai. The IOC, which has been corrupt, saying, no, we got to keep getting to these games. We got to keep getting to the games. Now is saying we can't give absolute certainty that she's okay after saying a couple of times that things were fine. And it would just be nice if American pressure kept getting applied on something like this, which isn't it, just with attention.
Right.
It's not even a big ask, no matter
With
what
coverage,
no
yes.
matter what your politics are. Don't let this story go away because there's a sliver of light into what happens sometimes with authoritarian regimes, and they will close that door again so that you can't see even that sliver of life. And here is a famous person, and people care about her, like from Naomi Osaka to that sport. People who care about the human being are like, is she okay? And we haven't been able to prove it now for months. We haven't had simple proof for months. Is she okay?
Simple ass.
Before Beijing
Yes.
and the Olympics. I'm just saying, I don't know how these things escalate with sports as a leader. I don't know, but if someone's willing to challenge the money of China, you have a famous cause in front of you, just prove to us that she's okay making an allegation, in a time of Me Too, as we're, demonizing the other, as there's Asian American hate all over the place. Don't let this be a victim that's a body that becomes more of a victim because you stopped paying attention, because you stopped caring, because you weren't willing to exert anything in the political realm of power to bring pressure upon a government that has so much money that it can withstand whatever the pressure is and continue doing business as usual.
Proving someone is okay seems like an easy ask. It seems like an easy thing to do. And the fact that they're not doing it, wouldn't that lead you to believe at this point, after so much time, that maybe she's just not okay?
Communist governments, authoritarian governments with this much power and money don't feel the need. Like, they've already extended themselves more than they would like. They get indignant when Daryl Morey says free Hong Kong and then take away money. When Joe Biden says just simply diplomatic boycott of Beijing, China gets offended. But they are kind of our equal now as a world power. And
they surpass us in many respects. Do you think? Let me ask you this: the WTA made their decision on this, but it directly involved one of their athletes, primarily. Do do you think the IOC should be a political organization or just the capitalistic venture that it's
Oh, I
always
just
kinda
wish
been?
it wasn't a corrupt organization.
Well,
Like,
I mean, yeah, you're going to see that at FIFA, but the direct question is, do you think the IOC should have political leanings? I'm sure they flashed them in the past. I may not be aware of it. I don't want to sound naive, but do you think
but
the IOC?
okay, but Mike, but forgive me, but like this morality, does this one have to be political? Like this one,
Well, it's always political. I understand the morality aspect, but I'm separating it. It has massive geopolitical ramifications to it. So, do you think the IOC, whose whole intention with the Olympic Games is to get every country competing through athletics, do you think? Because that's a very complicated thing.
it is.
It almost
but-
means that like they can't be political.
But Mike, what you're saying is the entire storm around sports and business and China and America that's going on throughout everywhere in America where you're not hearing maybe what you want in terms of a flex
But those
from
are our values.
Hollywood or Apple or anywhere else because of the business tied into
Those are-
China.
But the complications here, because I guarantee you other countries view China differently. What you're applying are American values, as you should, as someone that grew up within freedom and a
In
certain set of
our
ideals.
world, Mike, in our world, China shut down the NBA's free speech on what's going on
And that was
in China.
But that was an American enterprise that had business dealings specific to China. The IOC, and this is not an excuse, I think the IOC should do the right thing, and I honestly don't think it should come down to Peng Shuai. I really don't. There are other things that are going on in that country that would be cause enough for me to be like, we can't, in good moral conscience, have our event in this country. But that's me. That's me applying my prism of morals. The IOC, though, has to operate kind of absent of politics. It really does. This is how you have the moments where an Iraqi track star is going up against an American track star while there's
Mike, okay,
while there's a Gulf War going on.
But do you not understand the distinction that I'm making? Because okay, you can make this argument on this side of it, but when I'm simply using this one thing as a symbol, and you're telling me IOC can't be political, and all I'm hearing
No,
in the
I'm not telling you
Well,
that.
okay.
I didn't tell you anything. I asked you a question.
all right, so let's just make IOC aspiring to some sort of utopian political centrality,
Yeah.
neutrality.
Laughable, I know, but
Okay, but let's just assume without bias, absent bias, totally neutral, and also not corrupt, just totally neutral. The question was, is she okay? And the IOC quotes was, she's fine. That's choosing a side, man. That's not sitting it out. That's not being political. That's choosing the wrong side on. Don't be part of the propaganda machine as the World Tennis Association takes its money out of there. Don't give me quotes from still in charge Dick Pound. That's his name, Dick Pound. Don't give me, she's fine, and I'm supposed to take that with the name of IOC because you're sitting out politics. No, you're not. You chose a side, and you're choosing the wrong one on is she fine?
But isn't neutrality not even getting involved in the first place? That's what neutrality is. You don't even say, you're not putting yourself in a position to choose either on the side of Peng Shuai, although, I mean, who even knows what side she's on at this point, given the pressure that she's under. But them not getting involved, and I don't think them not getting involved would be acceptable to us. If we said they're not getting involved, we'd say, well, negligence is complicity in that spot.
Well, but
Like,
it's
they're
not.
gonna have
It's
to
not
choose a
even
side.
that.
I'm saying their standard of she's fine is probably a lot different than what we'd like it to be applying our prism. They do owe it, I think, to their athletes. Hey, am I going to be okay going there if I'm worried about if this person is fine? And I don't know the lengths of their investigation into this. I don't know if they picked up a phone and someone told them she's fine and they took it for her, or if they actually spoke to her.
They did a
spoke
call.
to her.
Yeah.
They
The
spoke to
president of
her.
the
But
IOC
no,
did a
you
call.
can't.
Okay.
You can't put your quote. You can't put on your name when you got.
Well, if they ask Peng Shuai, "Are you fine?" and the answer is yes, and they're relaying that message to us, it's very difficult. It's a very complicated situation, and I think in a utopian society, if excusing capitalism from this conversation, if the sole goal of the International Olympic Committee is to put on an athletic event that rotates host cities every 2 years between Summer and Winter Olympics, they almost have to be totally agnostic to politics.
But you can't when we know how Olympics changes politics within countries. The Sochi Olympics did a lot for Vladimir Putin. His approval level went to a place where he felt like he could invade Crimea. And it's because Russia had a pretty damn good Olympics that year, an Olympics that they were cheating at. And politics are inextricably linked, whether it's the actual improvement of presidential approval ratings, or when you look at the Montreal Olympics, what a disaster it was with all the white elephants that they had afterwards with the facilities that they built to host the Olympics. They are inextricably linked because governments put together those host proposals. And so, yeah, the International Olympic Committee, despite their utopian ideals, is a political organization, at least in part.
I super regret having this serious subject matter after not having enough enjoyment at Stugotz in the last segment about weight, nodding earnestly at Jessica and saying all of the things you're saying are totally fair. And by the end of the segment, he was simply screaming from every angle, I can't say anything anymore. I'm not allowed to call an athlete fat. You can't take that away from me.
I've honestly moved on to Dick Pound. Did you say Dick Pound? There's a man roaming the earth named Dick Pound?
Why didn't he go with Richard?
Dick Pound.
There's such an easy out from the name Dick Pound. Richie, Richard.
LB's.
Dick Pound needed to change his name.
Next level. Took me a second.
It took Mike saying it in my ear.